समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. Alright, we'll start with our Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Amba Tvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshinim Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Bhallaravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikaparnaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dobha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dubdham Gitamritam Mahata Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Hari Om. Okay. Hari Om and good morning everyone. It's so lovely to see you this morning. We are seeing Bhagavad Gita chapter 17. And last week we saw the introduction. We also saw how it is connected to chapter 16 and where it fits in the rest of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 17 is called Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. And the chapters it starts with a question from Arjuna, which is prompted by something that Bhagavan Sri Krishna had said in the previous chapter. Bhagavan Sri Krishna had said that those who don't follow the Shastras, they don't get any great goal, they don't get happiness, they don't get great goal here also in this life, right? Therefore, Shastram Pramanam Te. Therefore, Shastra is your Pramana. It is your authority in telling you what to do, what not to do. So our lives are supposed to be guided by Shastra. That is the instruction. So the people who follow Shastra, they get the greatest goal possible here and hereafter. But there's another group of people who doesn't follow Shastra and they live a licentious life and they do what they want. And so you know the goal that they will get according to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Arjuna says, no, but there is another group of people and they don't know what Shastra says, but they have Shraddha. They have Shraddha and they do what they do with Shraddha even though they don't know necessarily what Shastra says. So Bhagavan, would you qualify them as Sattvic, Rajasic or Tamasic? Meaning, would you call them noble? Would you call them mediocre? Or would you call them ignoble? And our instinctive response is, well, as long as they have Shraddha, it doesn't matter. That's the answer you would expect Bhagavan Sri Krishna to give. But Bhagavan does not give that answer. Bhagavan does not give actually a simple answer also. He says, hold on Arjuna, what kind of Shraddha are we talking about? Because there are multiple types of Shraddha. So he backs up now and he takes the topic up slowly. First thing is, he says when we don't know what our Shastra says and we make decisions in life, well, we must be making decisions based on something. Something must be guiding or prompting our decision making. And that is our Shraddha. We usually use the word Shraddha positively. But there are three types of Shraddha. Bhagavan Shri Krishna says Shraddha is of three types: Rajasic, Tamasic, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Which Shraddha are you talking about? And this Shraddha that we have is guided by our nature. And our nature is guided by our mind. And thought by thought, our mind makes our Shraddha. Our Shraddha is constructed thought by thought, lifetime over lifetime. So where we find joy, how we engage in discipline, how we make our decisions, on what basis, all of that is reinforced by things we believe in lifetime over lifetime, thought by thought. So studying chapter 17 is supposed to help us to figure out what is our Shraddha. Is it Sattvic? Is it Rajasic? Or is it Tamasic? And it's supposed to help us to transform whatever Shraddha we have into Sattvic Shraddha. Because Sattvic Shraddha is the Shraddha that makes our mind receptive for the knowledge that Bhagavan Shri Krishna has been teaching, and we will continue to learn over our lifetime. And the other thing is that, so what exactly is Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic faith? Well, Sattvic Shraddha is Shraddha in things that are conducive to our spiritual growth in all fields of life. Rajasic Shraddha is Shraddha in things connected to our material growth. And Tamasic Shraddha is Shraddha in things connected to destruction. Destruction of others and inevitably destruction of our own selves. Whether we know it or not. But this is what happens as a result of Shraddha, right? Now, the interesting thing is that you can have different types of Shraddha in different fields of life. So in the mandir, your Shraddha may be of one type. At work, your Shraddha may be of another type. When it comes to the kitchen, your Shraddha may be of another type. So in different aspects of our life, we may have different types of Shraddha. But in total, what that does to our life is what we have to consider. And in all aspects of life, we're supposed to make our Shraddha Sattvic. That is why we have such discordant personalities, unpredictable personalities. It is hard to understand our mind because our Shraddha in different aspects of life is different. Right? Now, how do I know my faith? How do I know my Shraddha? To make my Shraddha Sattvic, I have to know what my Shraddha is. Right? Well, Shraddha is an invisible thing. You can't see somebody and be like, oh yeah, I see your Shraddha is yellow or green or whatever. I see you have Sattvic Shraddha. I see you have Tamasic Shraddha. You can't see Shraddha as a thing, right? Shraddha is indicated through various activities, various actions in our life. So Bhagavan is now going to take us through a journey of our life and indicate to us our Shraddha in different fields of life. The way we worship, our discipline, our food, our sacrifice, our contribution, all of these things he'll point out to help us to figure out what our Shraddha is. Is volume low for everybody? Everyone can hear me? Okay, everyone else can hear me. You can check your volume then. And this topic will continue in chapter 18. Right? Now we saw that who we worship indicates our Shraddha. This was one of the things we saw last week. Sattvic Shraddha, someone with Sattvic Shraddha worships the Devatas. Well, this is so strange. Some people are having it low and some people are having it normal. Is it better now? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So, some people, okay, there is a setting here that had to change. The indication of Shraddha, based on who we worship, is what we're talking about. Those with Sattvic Shraddha worship the Devatas. Those with Rajasic Shraddha, they worship the Yakshas and Rakshasam, it's called in the verse, right? It means people with money and power. Then those with Tamasic Shraddha, they worship Bhuta Preta, right? The ghosts and spirits and all of that. And you have to remember that it is not just enough to see who you worship, it is also why you worship, isn't it? Because you can worship a sattvic devata for a rajasic purpose. You can worship Bhagavan, which is supposed to be sattvic, and you ask for money, or you ask for somebody you pray to get revenge. So you're using what is called supposed to be sattvic worship, but you're using it for a rajasic or a tamasic purpose. Then that will not be sattvic shraddha, right? We're supposed to worship devatas for spiritual growth and purity of mind. Then those who worship yaksha rakshasas, they worship for money and power and all of that, right? For material growth. Those who have tamasic shraddha, those who worship the bhutas and pretas, well, that is to harm others and we end up harming ourselves, right? But if the intention is mixed up, then you can't call it sattvic shraddha just because you're worshipping someone sattvic, right? So it's not just who we worship, but also how we worship. Our action is important, our attitude is important. So Bhagavan explores that a little bit further in this topic of worship. So let us see now verse number 5 in chapter 17. Will you chant with me? Okay. Ashastra vihitam ghoram tapyante ye tapojanaha dambhahankara samyuktaha kamaraga balanvitaha. So now he's talking about those people who do tapas ashastra vihitam. Ashastra vihitam means not in line with shastra, means totally opposed to something that shastra would say. So you're not doing something that you think shastra would consider great. You're doing something that is totally rogue. And how is it? It is ghoram. It is terrible. It is frightening to even hear about. Tapyante ye tapojanaha. These people do this kind of tapas. And the attitude, Bhagavan says, dambha ahankara samyuktaha. It is filled with dambha and ahankara, right? Abhimana, meaning hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, pretending, just to show off, or the other meaning of dambha is with great pomp, and we studied this in chapter 16. And abhiman is ahankara, is to fatten their ego. Look what I did. To show other people, look what I did. Or even to ego for one's own self, right? And kama raga bala anvitaha. It is driven by or because of desire, attachment, and pride. Those are the things that prompt this type of tapas. So now you just pause and you look to the Puranas and to Ramayana and Mahabharata and all, and you see the types of tapas that were done. If somebody does tapas, like standing on one foot in the sun for like 100 years, not eating anything, becoming emaciated, so intensely they do this tapas, that Bhagavan has no choice but to come. And when Bhagavan comes, they say, Bhagavan, I want you to give me power to live forever. Bhagavan's like, no, I can't give you that. That is an impossible boon to give. Okay, fine. If I can't live forever, let me be able to destroy anybody. Right? Is that a Rakshasa or a Devata's tapas, you think? Well, you don't even need to know who is doing it. Just by what they're asking, you can tell it is some Rakshasa like Hiranyakashipu or some Rakshasa in somewhere, right? So, the Rakshasas also do tapas. And they also get darshan of Bhagavan. You see how darshan of Bhagavan is no indication of a spiritual person. Anyone who does enough tapas will get darshan of Bhagavan. But having gotten darshan of Bhagavan, what do? Right? So external expression of devotion is no indication of spirituality. This thing should be clear in our mind. Just because we go to the mandir does not mean we are spiritual people. The intention that is there in the mind, it comes out clearly in all of our Puranas and everything. Right? So these Rakshasas, they make up their own ghora, terrible things to do, and they do it so intensely. This Bhasmasur, for example, when he goes and he does tapas, at the end of his tapas, when Bhagavan Shiva comes, Bhagavan Shiva is Ashutosh. Ashutosh means easily pleased. Right? So our Ashutosh Bhagavan comes and he says, what do you want? And Bhasmasur says, whoever I touch, I want them to turn to ashes. I want them to be burnt. Right? And then he goes and he wants to test it on Bhagavan Shiva himself. What kind of people and what kind of things they ask for. This is not only in the Puranas, in the world also, you see people trying to set Guinness World Records, isn't it? I was Googling, someone got 800 piercings in 24 hours and they earned the Guinness World Book record for that. I mean, what is that going to do to your life? Every time you get pierced, you say, "Hey Ram," what does that do to you? Right? Then another person got a record for the longest time spent in a snow globe. In case you're interested, 30 minutes and 45 seconds. So you think a snow globe is such a beautiful thing, and then you go and you decide to live in it. For what? For Bhagavan. It's only for name and fame, right? It's for Abhiman. So people will say, oh, look, I got the Guinness World Record. What does that do for your life? Now, please, I'm saying this, but it is not to judge other people. This is supposed to be a mirror into our personality. So you're supposed to identify, do I have Rajasic tapas? Do I have Tamasic tapas? Do I do what I do for these things, driven by these things? Like, I'm going to fast for 1 week. No food, no water. To show Bhagavan I love him. But Bhagavan didn't ask you to do that. He never asked you to do that. Right? But you make up your mind to do something that is just totally unnecessary. Like that. Right? Now you might think, no, I don't do all of these things. But it is very surreptitious. Right? See examples now of how it might look in our life. Right? In our simple, oh yes, I have such a sattvic expression of love for Bhagavan. Hello, look at this. When you go and you sing a bhajan in the mandir, and everyone does this in some way, shape or form. You sing at Balvihar, you sing in the mandir, you sing at a yajna, right? The thought in the mind is, I hope people liked it. Correct or wrong? In fact, you're waiting for somebody to come and hear you. You're waiting for someone to come and say, oh, you sang so nicely. Oh, you have such a nice voice. Oh, that was such a nice bhajan you chose. You're just waiting for somebody to come and compliment you. If that thought is slightly there in the mind also, it is considered damba. Because no more are we singing for Bhagavan, we're singing now for people. Because the thought in the mind as I'm singing is, oh, who's going to like this? Oh, well, that just ruined the whole privilege of the whole what is it? The reward that you were going to get, the purity of mind that you were going to get has been tainted by this desire in the mind for recognition and all of that, right? And it is a huge disease. It is really surreptitious. It affects everybody. You cannot believe how, right? Or somebody does a satsang or a yajna in a certain way, and they put so much effort in, they do everything perfect, and they think in their mind, oh, I want people to see how nicely I did it. Just a little thought could enter and it could ruin the whole thing. So Bhagavan is warning us to watch our tapas, our efforts very carefully. It if you see it in your personality, you can't complain and blame yourself. Fine. Over the past, you've engendered something, but identifying it, you should be like, thank you, Bhagavan, for helping me to see it. Now I can remove it, right? So it is not like, oh, no, don't tell me this bad part of my personality. I don't want to know it. No, we know it so we can remove it, not so that we can judge ourselves and blame ourselves and then have an inferiority complex and get depression and that's the other end of it. That's not what it's for either. So take it as what it's meant for. Look for it. If it's there, you try to remove it. All of us, we all have it because we grow up in a system that engenders competition and engenders this thought of us looking to other people and comparing and thinking about ourselves and our achievements. And while that is good in a certain field, it is not so good for our spiritual part of our personality. So it's what we've been fed with. So we just have to watch out carefully to make sure we fix it with the right attitude that will engender spiritual growth that we are looking for. Okay? Alright, next verse. He continues. Bhagavan hasn't finished here. Karshayanta sharirastham
bhutagramamachetasah
Mam chaivanta sharirastham Tan vidhyasura nishchayan Tan vidhi asura nishchayan. Know this type of tapas to be asuri. It's rakshasi kind of tapas. This, what he's saying in this verse and what he had echoed, what he had said in the previous verse, they're connected. He says they're achetasaha. They don't think properly. These people don't think properly when they're choosing and doing their tapas. Karshayanta sharirastham bhutagramam. They torture their body, they torture their senses. This karshayanta literally means it's to thin down or to wane. So they engage in the kind of tapas that saps the vigor and life out of their body and out of their senses. Right? So there's no thinking, oh, I'm torturing my body and my body is like a mandir and Bhagavan is inside. There's no thinking that this body is needed to do dharma. There's no thinking that my senses are a gift from Bhagavan. I shouldn't ruin them by abusing them. Right? There's no thinking that tapas is meant for discipline, not for destruction. Right? Or it's meant for mastery, not for torture. And it's supposed to help us to build fortitude, not to finish our life. Right? So there's no thinking about the intention behind which they're doing this tapas and what it was meant for. And interesting thing, Parvati ji had done intense tapas at one time for Bhagavan Shiva. If you read Ramayana, you will see. In Tulsidas ji's Ramayana it comes. But at that time, Shivji had sent the Sapta Rishis to test her when her tapas had gotten really, really intense. She stopped eating also. Aparna, the name Aparna for Parvati Ma means the person, she didn't even eat leaves. She ate nothing. Her tapas was so intense. In one place, in a different kalpa, I guess, Shivji himself went to meet her. And Kali Dasji writes, Shivji asked her, do you have enough health and strength needed to practice your sadhana with all of this tapas that you're doing? Like you have good water and all of that? Because, and he says, the body is the first instrument of dharma. Meaning, if your body is not healthy, how are you going to do anything? So this karshayanta sharirastham bhutagramam they don't think about the consequences that this thing is going to have to their body. And everybody has a different tolerance level. The tapas that Manu and Shatrupa ji had done in Ramayana back in the day to become the parents of Bhagavan Ram, we cannot imagine doing that kind of tapas nowadays. That would have been fine for them, but we have to see what is appropriate for us. One day without eating and then your brain stops working. So you have to know, you can't copy somebody else's tapas. So Bhagavan is saying asuri tendency is to torture me in their body. Oh, he says that next. Mam chaiva anta sharirastham. They torture me also, they persecute me also in their body. Right? But Bhagavan is supposed to be beyond everything. How is he getting tortured? Is he not transcendent? Like, how are we torturing him? No, you know how? It's not a physical torture. But it is like when a child is supposed to be following the rules that the parents make. Or the child is supposed to be doing dharmic things. You know, the parents brought them up as a good child. Then they go and they disobey the parents and they start to do adharma. They get into bad company. They do all kinds of things. Is it not true that the parent feels like they're being persecuted? There's no physical harm being caused, but the actions of the child, because of the expectation that the parent has, it makes the parent feel persecuted. It hurts. It hurts more than them coming to hit you. It does something inside, you know? So it is not necessarily a physical thing to be persecuted. Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya says, by not following the injunctions, it is tantamount to persecuting Bhagavan. By not following dharma, it is tantamount to persecuting Bhagavan. And tan vidhi asura nishchaya. Understand it to be of asuri nature. Now, that is tamas, that would fall under rajasic and tamasic. Guruji goes one step further and he says it's even lower than tamas and rajas. Like it's even lower than tamasic and rajasic. It's so terrible. And all this is being told so we can avoid it. Now, you know, there are some parents, please now take this in the right light. There are some parents who see their children doing this kind of thing and feeling the pain of what their children are doing. They're like, I don't understand where my children learned this. I only taught them good things. Right? Why are they doing this to me? Well, now Bhagavan is saying, look at yourself. Are you doing this to me? Children learn from somewhere. Right? So this is supposed to be, we're supposed to take an honest look at our life. Right? Now, how does this translate to my life? This persecuting Bhagavan and torturing my body and all of that. You know, we may not necessarily be engaging in torture of the body as is described in the Puranas, you know, but there's a indication here behind the lines, not even so behind the lines, but an importance of keeping our body physically healthy, right? Meaning, we're not supposed to pamper our body. That is one side. But we're also not supposed to overthink the amount we work out and all of that, right? We're supposed to do enough so that our body doesn't talk to us. That is actually how you know your body is healthy. You know, when you eat too much, your body complains, oh my God, I'm so full. When you eat too little, your body complains, oh my God, I'm so hungry. But when you eat a Goldilocks amount, like a just right amount for you, then your body is quiet. It doesn't say anything, it doesn't trouble you. Same with exercise. When you exercise too much, your body is in pain, right? When you exercise too little, also your body is in pain. So you're not supposed to neglect your health because it is a form of torturing Bhagavan, right? When you torture your body, you torture Bhagavan, right? Because it is our dharma to take care of our body. Because the body is what we use to do our sadhana. Right? So this, Bhagavan is not going to say in Bhagavad Gita, hey, exercise 3 times a week, otherwise you're doing something wrong. He's not going to come and tell us that, right? But in lines like this, you see how important it is for us to think about and take care of our body. That's a behind the line side note for you to think about. Okay, now, someone might say, well, what if I don't do puja and worship and do all this kind of tapas to please Bhagavan? Well, how can I figure out my shraddha? I don't worship Bhagavan. Say somebody says, right? Well, there are other things Bhagavan points out for us to see and identify what is our shraddha. So this is now verse number 7. Chant 7. Aharastvapi sarvasya
आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य
त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः
त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः
यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानम्
यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानम्
तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु
तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु.
Bhagavan says, Tesham bhedam imam shrinu. Now listen to the different types of, means the topic is Shraddha. Listen to the types of Shraddha that there are in these different topics. Aharaha, in our food. The food we eat is of Aharastvapi sarvasya trivido bhavati priyaha. The food that people eat, 3 types of food are there that are liked by different people. Then yajna, same, 3 types of yajna. Yajna means our sacrifice or our attitude in work. Then tapaha. Tapa is austerity, right? And dana, the way we give. So we'll see each of these. Bhagavan says, now listen to the difference. The principle here is our mind will drive our desires. So if we have a sattvic disposition, we will want sattvic food, we will engage in sattvic tapas, yajna, danam, etc. Right? And if you don't like what you hear or see that Bhagavan is showing, you have the power to change it. Right? Like that question had come up at the end of last class. That is it possible to change my shraddha, my nature? Well, why will Bhagavan give scriptures if it is not possible to change? Why will you have free will if it's not possible to change? To just show you how doomed you are and say, too bad, so sad, your life sucks? It can't be that. Bhagavan is so compassionate. That can't be the reason. So we use this mirror to identify where we need to change. I keep repeating that because we have to remember that is the purpose, So now Bhagavan is going to start with food. Because food is one thing that someone engages in every day. You can do nothing else in life. No dana, no yajna, no tapas, no puja, no worship, nothing. But you will eat. Not once, multiple times a day. Each time you take food to put it in your mouth, you have a chance to check your shraddha. So we look to our food traits to help us to indicate our shraddha. Bhagavan, hold on, you're getting a little too personal now. It is okay for me to talk about my food, but it's not okay for anyone else to talk about my food. If you go on Instagram and you watch those reels and all, there are endless reels about food. I saw one, someone had sent, who said, I'm not cutting calories, right? And then they have a picture after picture of them using a spoon or a knife to cut a cake after cake. Who said I'm not cutting my calories? It's okay if I make those jokes about myself, but dare you talk about my food? That's called body shaming, and that's called all kinds of other things. No. Bhagavan is getting personal, but in a different way, right? So let Bhagavan say what he has to say, and then we'll see. But before we see what he says about sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic food, there are some other things. Let us see other things about food before we get into SRT food. Okay? Some principles about food. 1. In our Shastra, food is medicine. The same word that is used for food is used for medicine in Sanskrit. Aushadhi, same word, can be used for food and can be used for medicine. Now, please tell me, who prescribes medicine? Let me rephrase that. Who is supposed to prescribe medicine? in different parts of the world where antibiotics are given freely without strict prescriptions, anybody can prescribe. I come from a family that sells medicine. And when people in the community get sick, when I was growing up, they would call my family for advice on what medicine to take. Now let me tell you, not a single person in my family is a doctor or a pharmacist. I mean, it was at that time. Not a single person was a pharmacist or a doctor, but they were the ones who gave advice on what medicine to take. so no, anybody can give advice and prescribe medicine, but who is supposed to? The doctor is supposed to be the one who prescribes. Correct or wrong? Okay. Now, when the doctor prescribes, the implication, if you didn't figure that out, is who is supposed to prescribe the food we're supposed to eat? Not Instagram, not Google, not the latest health fad, but Shastra. Shastra prescribes the food we're supposed to eat, number 1. Okay. Now there are multiple factors to consider. Number 1, quantity. What is the quantity of food we are supposed to eat? Well, you fill your plate and you just eat. The instruction is we're supposed to fill. I think many of you would have heard me talk about this because food comes up over and over again. We're supposed to fill our belly half with food. So your belly is, imagine your belly as one round circle. Half of it is supposed to be filled with food. When you're done eating, not when you're in the middle of eating. When you're done eating, half of your belly is supposed to be filled with food. Then the remaining half, quarter is supposed to be filled with liquid, with water or soup or whatever, some liquid thing. And then a quarter is supposed to be filled with air. Because, if you fill, like if you're baking a cake and you fill a bowl with the batter, you need space to mix. Like space is needed for churning and mixing and all of that kind of thing to happen. You can't fill a cooking pot to the top and then try to turn. You can't fill your belly fully and then expect it to efficiently digest what you're eating, right? So quarter air is needed, quarter liquid is needed, and half food. Now you might say, well, I don't know how much is half a belly, right? So here's how you tell. I have told this during 108 also. Here's a test. One day, you eat as much as you can, like until you feel like your belly is going to burst, right? Whether that means 2 pizzas, not slices of pizza, 2 whole pizzas for teenagers, whether it means like 20 dosas, whether it means a full leaf of 7 curry, like whatever it is in your world that will fill your belly fully. You eat that much. But what you do is you make a note. You take a picture of how much you're eating and you eat until your belly is full. Then you feel that feeling, right? This is what it feels like to have a full belly. Then the next day, you take that same food and you half it. Whatever you ate, today you eat half of it. And then you observe the feeling that is there in your belly. Oh, this is what half a belly feels like. Then you'll know for good. This is what half belly feels like. In case you want to, experimentally decide what is half a belly, that is a proposition. But otherwise, you can usually figure out what half belly means. Half belly means I feel like eating more, so I'm not going to eat more. That's the simple conclusion. I feel like eating something more. Okay, stop. That's what it's supposed to equal to. So half belly is the quantity we're supposed to eat. Then frequency. The doctor sets quantity, quality, frequency in medicine, right? So quantity, that has been told. What is the frequency we're supposed to eat? Well, if the doctor says, take this medicine 3 times a day, one capsule 3 times a day, and you say, oh, but tomorrow morning I'm going to be too busy, and tomorrow afternoon also, no, tomorrow night also I'll be too busy, so let me just take all 3 of them in the afternoon, one time. But wait, you can't decide that, oh, I'm not going to take it in the morning and in the evening, so let me just take all 3 together. But do we not do that with our food? I didn't eat breakfast and I'm not going to eat dinner, so let me just eat extra. That's fasting logic. You know, fasting 101 logic is that. Oh, I'm eating only once a day, let me eat properly. And you eat till you can't eat anymore. No, so frequency has to be paced. Now, there's a saying in our tradition that a yogi eats once a day, a bhogi eats twice a day, and a rogi eats more than twice. Now that's big trouble, because yogi is someone who is, trying to become more controlling of their mind and all of that. Bhogi is someone who likes to enjoy. And a rogi is someone who is sick. So, 2 to 3 times a day maximum is the frequency we're supposed to eat. If we have you all know this in science, you must have heard, that our brain and our belly are like very similar in their processing, right? Meaning our belly is considered our second brain. And there's a principle that if your belly is working, your brain stops working. Like the energy that would have gone to the brain, it goes to the belly to do all the processing of the food that you've eaten. So every time that you put food in your mouth, you're stopping your brain and you're starting your belly's digestive system. So this philosophy of let me sit with my work and let me get a snack, like a red cup with some white writing and a brown bag with some red writing to accompany it, right? Or if you didn't, those who are not in Canada, that's called Tim Hortons, right? I have to clarify. Or a green cup. I mean, the cup can be any color in Starbucks, actually. No, a white cup with green writing. And what is the bag of Starbucks? Also brown, I think. No? A brown bag, and with a green Davy smiling at you. You know the green Starbucks Davy? So you keep that ready, and you keep your work ready, and you say, now I'm ready to work. And you type one sentence, and you open that bag, and you take a bite. Hello. That is not what Shastra says. That is not what our Shastra says. We're not supposed to eat and work at the same time. They're supposed to be completely separate. You finish eating, you let it digest, and then you do your work, right? We don't have this pass fridge and open your mouth philosophy, right? So that is one thing. The frequency is set not by our mood, not by, oh, my coworkers are eating, so I should eat also, not by, it's just the trend to go to the vending machine when you're studying and snack all day. No. The rishis say you eat when you're eating, and that is it. Quality is the next one. Quality is sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, right? So we'll see that. Bhagavan himself will tell. The next 3 verses are on that. But few other things first we'll think about, right? The manner in which we eat is also really important. We're not supposed to stand and eat. We're supposed to sit and eat. Now, there's some people who are like, I'll just grab a quick bite and I'll eat on the go and all of that, right? But eating is a form of puja. It's supposed to be, I'm supposed to sit and I'm supposed to offer the food. We say, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashitaha Pranapan Samayuktaha Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. Bhagavan himself is in our belly as our digestive fire, and he is going to digest our food. So every time we eat, it is like a yajna. You don't do yajna walking around doing multiple things, multitasking. You sit and you prepare your mind, and then you offer any ahuti into the yajna. In the same way, the attitude when we sit and eat, whatever we're eating, is Bhagavan is there, and I'm making this offering into my digestive fire. And when we do that, the way in which we eat will be completely different. Completely different. So that is something to keep in mind. Then the attitude. This is really big. You know, food is not only physical. Like we look at food like a physical thing, right? But our Upanishads very clearly tell that there is a physical aspect of food and there is a subtle aspect of food. The physical aspect of food goes to making our body, right? I mean, my body is made of the 5 elements, which comes from the food that I ate, which is also made of the 5 elements, right? But there's a subtle part of the food, which is the prana in the food, and the subtle part of the food is what goes to making my mind. So the physical part of the food makes my body, and the subtle part of the food makes my mind. Now, you can test this for yourself, right? When I eat, this is my personal experience. I don't eat out very often. But the rare time that I would eat out at night for dinner, without me paying attention, invariably, I would have dreams that were very uncharacteristic of my mind. Crazy dreams. Dreams about things I never think about. One time, I dreamt that I was a refugee running away from one country. Like, where did that thought even come in my mind? You know, I had lost I didn't have a passport, and one time I dreamt that I was thinking about how much money I was going to make, and all kinds of crazy dreams after I eat out at night. You can test it. One time we had gone for Bhiksha somewhere, and the person was traveling the next day, like moving countries the next day. And that night, I dreamt I was packing. Now, you might say coincidence and everything, right? No problem. But really, it is true. Whatever the person is thinking about when they're cooking the food, it becomes part of the food. And when I eat it, it goes into making my mind. So that is why in the past, our ancestors did not eat out. They did not let anybody cook for them. And even the procurement of food, they did themselves. They would go and get their own food. They would go and everything themselves, because from the way the food is planted and grown and nurtured and picked and brought to your home and packaged and processed and cooked and eaten, every single piece of that process goes into making the subtle part of the food. Now you hear this and you freak out and you're like, oh my God, what? Do you know where we get our food? We don't even know where we get our food, right? No, but it is true. This is what used to happen in the past. You know, people still hold on to that. When I used to get my groceries delivered. I was that generation. You know, I would look for, Instacart would send you $20 for free, and I'd be like, okay, perfect. Today I can get my groceries delivered. And so my at home they couldn't understand it. They were like, no, but you have to go and pick your groceries yourself. You know, so there's still that sentiment that you have to take care of the food that you put in your body, right? So I mean, this is a big thing. You have to think about how to circumvent the limitations, and the things that are in your control, you influence those, right? So once the food touches you, your hands, the way you handle it and take care of it, and the way you eat it, all of that can help also. Okay. So the subtle, we have to be so careful, because you know, if you're going to build a house, you're not going to go and buy Chinese materials to put, let me rephrase that. If you use Chinese materials to build your house, well, you know the consequence, right? We had a Chinese lock on the front door of our ashram, and we've had to change it 3 times already. So, you know the consequence of the materials that you use, right? In the same way, the material that goes to making our mind, well, we are in control of it. So that is what Bhagavan is saying we have to watch out for. Every bite of food builds our mind, not just our body. And the purpose is I'm eating as an offering to Bhagavan, and I'm sustaining my life so that I can serve, so that I can do sadhana. That is the purpose. Not, oh, what are we going to eat today? I don't feel like eating this. Put it in the fridge and get something else. Yeah, no, the world has taught us to think about food in a certain way, but the Shastras encourage us to think about food in a completely different way. And when we do Ramarpanam, meaning when we sit and we pray before we eat, that is like our last resort of helping us with the quality of our food. And what happens there actually is, when the mind is sattvic, the mind has the capacity to, I think absorb is the wrong word, but the mind assimilates more the sattvic parts of the food. Whatever your mind is, the food feeds that type of mind when you eat it, right? So when we make our mind sattvic, our mind is like absorbing, assimilating more the sattvic parts of the food than the rajasic and the tamasic parts. So we make our mind ready to absorb the best part of the food, given the fact that it could have all of them. Right? So anyways, these are some things to think about. Food is a huge topic. Food is one of my favorite topics, not just in a Shastric point of view, in a regular life point of view too. So it's something to go on thinking about. Now, many of you may have heard these things before, but how many of us actually put it into practice? I myself say it so many times, but how many times do I practice it? I still go to the kitchen being like, I feel like eating something nice, right? So we have to go on thinking about it. It's not something that changes overnight. It's something that, especially for people who call themselves foodies. All right, now it's 7:30 already, so I don't want to start this set of verses. We'll pause here, and we'll do discussion today. Right? So today's discussion question is going to be, how can we become more in control of our food? Given all the things around food, give thought to things that tangible things we can actually do in the process of procurement to eating, all of it, right? That it's a very general question around food. Just things we can do to improve our final food product on our plate, and that goes in our body. Question is clear? We're talking practical, tangible, real things we can do in today's world with the situation that we currently have and all of that. So I'm going to send you all into discussion groups now, okay? And I will give you like 7-8 minutes, and then we'll come back. Where did it go?